Good morning. I was in the middle of typing something and then it went live quicker than I expected. Good morning. Sorry I'm late. It was midnight before we got settled in. It was 12:30 before we got to bed last night, and so I slept in a little bit late this morning. And I'm just getting my coffee in. So good morning. That coffee is super duper thick. I think I put too much gelatin in it. It's like chewable. All right, June 18th. Athaliah rules in Judah. 2 Kings 11, 1-3, 841 BC. When Athaliah, the mother of King Ahaziah of Judah, learned that her son was dead, she began to destroy the rest of the royal family. But Ahaziah's sister, Jehosheba, the daughter of King Jehoram, took Ahaziah's infant son, Joash, and stole him away from among the rest of the king's children, who were about to be killed. She put Joash and his nurse in a bedroom, and they hid him from Athaliah, so the child was not murdered. Joash remained hidden in the temple of the Lord for 6 years while Athaliah ruled over the land. 2 Chronicles 22, 10-12. I'm having a hard time seeing this morning. Sorry. When Athaliah, the mother of King Ahaziah of Judah, learned that her son was dead, she began to destroy the rest of Judah's family. But Ahaziah's sister, Jehosheba, the daughter of King Jehoram, took Ahaziah's infant son, Joash, and stole him away from among the rest of the king's children, who were about to be killed. She put Joash and his nurse in a bedroom. In this way, Jehosheba, wife of Jehoiada, the priest and sister of Ahaziah, hid the child so that Athaliah could not murder him. Joash remained hidden in the temple of God for 6 years while Athaliah ruled over the land. Revolt against Athaliah, 2 Kings 11, 4-12, 835 BC. In the 7th year of Athaliah's reign, Jehoiada the priest summoned the commanders, the Karaite mercenaries, and the palace guards to come to the temple of the Lord. He made a solemn pact with them and made them swear an oath of loyalty there in the Lord's temple. Then he showed them the king's son. Jehoiada told them, "This is what you must do. A third of you who are on duty on the Sabbath are to guard the royal palace itself. Another third of you are to stand guard at the Sur gate, and a final third must stand guard behind the palace guard. These 3 groups will all guard the palace. The other 2 units were off duty on Sabbath, must stand guard for the king at the Lord's temple. Form a bodyguard around the king and keep your weapons in hand. Kill anyone who tries to break through. Stay with the king wherever he goes." So the commander did everything as Jehoiada the priest had ordered. The commanders took charge of the men reporting for duty that Sabbath, as well as those who were going off duty. They brought them all to Jehoiada the priest, and he supplied them with spears and small shields that had once belonged to King David, were stored in the temple of the Lord. The palace guards stationed themselves around the king with their weapons ready. They formed a line from the south side of the temple around the north side, all the way and all around the altar. Then Jehoiada brought Joash, the king's son, placed the crown on his head, and presented him with a copy of God's law. They anointed him and proclaimed him king, and everyone clapped their hands and shouted, "Long live the king." 2 Chronicles 23, 1-11. In the 7th year of Athaliah's reign, Jehoiada the priest decided to act. He summoned his courage and made a pact with 5 army commanders: Azariah, son of Jehoram; Ishmael, son of Jehohanan; Azariah, son of Obed; Messiah, son of Adiah; Elishaphat, son of Zichri. These men traveled secretly through Judah and summoned the Levites and clan leaders in all the town to come to Jerusalem. They all gathered at the temple of God, where they made a solemn pact with Joash, the young king. Jehoiada said to them, "Here is the king's son. The time has come for him to reign. The Lord has promised that a descendant of David will be our king. This is what you must do. When you priests and Levites come on duty on the Sabbath day, a third of you will serve as gatekeepers. Another third will go over to the royal palace, and the final third will be at the fountain gate. Everyone else should stay in the courtyards of the Lord's temple. Remember, only the priests and Levites on duty may enter the temple of the Lord, for they are set apart as holy. The rest of the people must obey the Lord's instructions and stay outside. You Levites, form a bodyguard around the king and keep your weapons in hand. Kill anyone who tries to enter the temple. Stay with the king wherever he goes." So the Levite and all the people of Judah did everything as Jehoiada the priest ordered. The commanders took charge of the men reporting for duty that Sabbath, as well as those who were going off duty. Jehoiada the priest did not let anyone go home after their shift ended. Then Jehoiada supplied the commanders with spears and large and small shields that had once belonged to King David and were stored in the temple of God. He stationed all the people around the king with their weapons ready. They formed a line from the south side of the temple, around the north side, and all around the altar. Then Jehoiada and his sons brought out Joash, the king's son, and placed the crown on his head and presented him with a copy of God's laws. They anointed him and proclaimed him, and everyone shouted, "Long live the king." The death of Athaliah, 2 Kings 11:13 through 16. 835 BC. When Athaliah heard the noise made by the priests, by the palace guards, and the people, she hurried to the Lord's temple to see what was happening. When she arrived, she saw the newly crowned king standing in his place of authority by the pillar, as was the custom at times of coronation. The commanders and trumpeters were surrounding him, and people from all over the land were rejoicing and blowing trumpets. When Athaliah saw all of this, she tore her clothes in despair and shouted, "Treason! Treason!" Then Jehoiada the priest ordered the commanders who were in charge of the troops, "Take her to the soldiers in front of the temple, and kill anyone who tries to rescue her." For the priest had said, "She must not be killed in the temple of the Lord." So they seized her and led her out of the gate where the horses enter the palace grounds, and she was killed there. 2 Chronicles 23:12 through 15. When Athaliah heard the noise of the people running and the sounds of praise of the king, she hurried to the Lord's temple to see what was happening. When she arrived, she saw the newly crowned king standing in his place of authority by the pillar at the temple entrance. The commanders and trumpeters were around surrounding him, and the people from all over the land were rejoicing and blowing trumpets. Singers with musical instruments were leading the people in a great celebration. When Athaliah saw this, she tore her clothes in despair and shouted, "Treason! Treason!" Then Jehoiada the priest ordered the commanders who were in charge of the troops, "Take her to the soldier in front of the temple and kill anyone who tries to rescue her." The priest had said, "She must not be killed in the temple of the Lord." So they seized her and led her out of the entrance of the horse gate and the palace grounds, and they killed her there. Jehoiada's religious reform, 2 Kings 11:17 through 21, 835 BC. Then Jehoiada made a covenant between the Lord and the king and the people, that they would be the Lord's people. He also made a covenant between the king and the people. And all the people of the land went over to the temple of Baal and tore it down. They demolished the altars and smashed the idols to pieces, and they killed Mattan, the priest of Baal, in front of the altars. Jehoiada the priest stationed guards at the temple of the Lord. Then the commander, the Karaite mercenaries, the palace guards, and all the people of the land escorted the king from the temple of the Lord. When they went through the palace, they went through the gate at the guard. Oh my goodness. They went through the gate of the guards and into the palace, and the king took his seat on the royal throne. So all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was peaceful because Athaliah had been killed at the king's palace. Joash was 7 years old when he became king. 7. Imagine a 7-year-old king. Oh my word. 2 Chronicles 23:16 through 21. Then Jehoiada made a covenant between himself and the king and the people that would be the Lord's people. And all the people went over to the temple of Baal and tore it down. They demolished the altars and smashed the idols, and they killed Mattan, the priest of Baal, in front of the altars. Jehoiada now put priests and Levites in charge of the temple of the Lord, following the directions given by David. He also commanded them to present burnt offerings to the Lord as prescribed by the law of Moses, and to sing and rejoice as David had instructed. He also stationed gatekeepers at the gates of the Lord's temple to keep out those who for any reason were ceremonially unclean. Then the commanders, nobles, rulers, and all the people of the land escorted the king from the temple of the Lord. They went through the upper gate and into the palace, and they seated the king on the royal throne. So all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was peaceful, because Athaliah had been killed. Joash rules in Judah, 2 Kings 12:1 through 16, 835 BC. Joash began to rule over Judah in the 7th year of King Jehu's reign in Israel. He reigned in Jerusalem 40 years. His mother was Zibiah from Beersheba. All his life, Joash did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, because Jehoiada the priest instructed him. Yet even so, he did not destroy the pagan shrines, and the people still offered sacrifices and burned incense there. One day, King Joash said to the priest, "Collect all the money brought as a sacred offering to the Lord's temple, whether it is a regular assessment, a payment of vows, or a voluntary gift. Let the priests take some of that money to pay for whatever repairs are needed at the temple." But by the 23rd year of Joash's reign, the priests still had not repaired the temple. So King Joash called for Jehoiada and the other priests and asked them, "Why haven't you repaired the temple?" Don't use any more money for your own needs. From now on, it must all be spent on the temple repairs. So the priests agreed not to accept any more money from the people, and they also agreed to let others take responsibility for repairing the temple. Then Jehoiada the priest bored a hole in the lid of a large chest and set it on the right-hand side of the altar at the entrance of the temple of the Lord. The priests guarding the entrance put all of the people's contributions into the chest. Whenever the chest became full, the court secretary and the high priest counted all the money that had been brought to the Lord's temple and put it into bags. Then they gave the money to the construction supervisors, who used it to pay the people working on the Lord's temple: the carpenters, the builders, the masons, and the stonecutters. They also used the money to buy timber and finished stone needed for repairing the Lord's temple, and they paid any other expenses related to the temple's restoration. The money brought to the temple was not used for making silver bowls, lamp snuffers, basins, or trumpets, or other articles of gold or silver for the temple of the Lord. It was paid for the workmen, who used it for the temple repairs. No accounting of this money was required from the construction supervisors because they were honest and trustworthy men. However, the money that was contributed for guilt offerings and sin offerings was brought into the house of the Lord's temple. It was given to the priests for their own use. 2 Chronicles 24, 1 through 16. Joash was 7 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem for 40 years. His mother was Zibiah from Beersheba. Joash did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight throughout the lifetime of Jehoiada the priest. Jehoiada chose 2 wives for Joash, and he had sons and daughters. At one point, Joash decided to repair and restore the temple of the Lord. He summoned the priests and Levites and gave them these instructions: Go to all the towns of Judah and collect the required annual offerings so that we can repair the temple of your God. Do not delay. But the Levites did not act immediately. So the king called for Jehoiada the high priest and asked him, Why haven't you demanded that the Levites go out and collect the temple taxes from the towns of Judah and from Jerusalem? Moses, the servant of the Lord, levied this tax on the community of Israel in order to maintain the tabernacle of the covenant. Over the years, the followers of wicked Athaliah had broken into the temple of God, and they had used all the dedicated things from the temple of the Lord to worship the images of Baal. So now the king ordered a chest be made and set outside the gate leading to the temple of the Lord. Then a proclamation was sent throughout Judah and Jerusalem, telling people to bring to the Lord the tax Moses, the servant of God, had required of the Israelites in the wilderness. This pleased all the leaders of the people, and they gladly brought their money and filled the chest with it. Whenever the chest became full, the Levites would carry it to the king's officials. Then the court secretary and the officer of the high priest would come and empty the chest and take it back to the temple again. This went on day after day, and a large amount of money was collected. The king and Jehoiada gave the money to the construction supervisors, who hired masons, carpenters to restore the temple of the Lord. They also hired metal workers who made articles of iron and bronze from the Lord's temple. The men in charge of the renovation worked hard and made steady, strong progress. The word strong is not in there. Made steady progress. They restored the temple of God according to its original design and strengthened it. When all the repairs were finished, they brought the remaining money to the king and Jehoiada. It was used to make various articles for the temple of the Lord, articles for worship services and for burnt offerings, including ladles and other articles of gold and silver. And for the burnt offerings were sacrificed continually in the temple of the Lord during the lifetime of Jehoiada the priest. Jehoiada lived to a very old age, finally dying at 130. He was buried among the kings of the city of David because he had done so much good in Israel for God and his temple. Jehoiada's reforms reversed. 2 Chronicles 24, 17 through 22. But after Jehoiada's death, the leaders of Judah came and bowed before King Joash, and persuaded him to listen to their advice. They decided to abandon the temple of the Lord, the God of their ancestors, and worshipped Asherah poles and idols instead. Because of this sin, divine anger fell on Judah and Jerusalem. Yet the Lord sent prophets to bring them back to him. The prophets warned them, but still people would not listen. Then the Spirit of God came upon Zechariah, son of Jehoiada, and the priest. He stood before the people and said, This is what God says. Why do you disobey the Lord's commands, and keep yourselves from prospering? You have abandoned the Lord, and now he has abandoned you. Then the leaders plotted to kill Zechariah and King Joash, and ordered that they stone him to death in the courtyard of the Lord's temple. That was how King Joash repaid Jehoiada for his loyalty, by killing his son. Zechariah's last words as he died were, May the Lord see what you are doing and avenge my death. The death of Jehu, 2 Kings 10:32 through 36, 814 BC. At about that time, the Lord began to cut down the size of Israel's territory. King Hazael conquered several sections of the country east of the Jordan River, including Gilead, Gad, Reuben, and Manasseh. He conquered the area from the town of Arior from the Arnon Gorge as far north as Gilead and Bashan. The rest of the events in Jehu's reign, everything he did and his achievements, are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. When Jehu died, he was buried in Samaria. Then his son Jehoahaz became the next king. In all, Jehu reigned over Israel from Samaria for 28 years. All right. Where did I put my devotional book? Somewhere in the piles. Right. Under that pile of books. All right. June 18th of Unshakable, day 169. What can I do? Jeremiah 32:27 says, I am the Lord, the God of all mankind. Is anything too hard for me? Callie, a 41-year-old homemaker and mother of two, assumed it was impossible for God to use her to save lives. God had stirred her heart during one of our 821 campaign events, and she heard about the crushing billion-dollar business of human trafficking. But she thought, I'm just one woman. What can I do about this massive global problem? Yet she stepped out and followed God's leading and became a volunteer. That was in 2008. Over the years, she went from volunteer to staff member, working as a shelter manager, where she gave her phone number to a girl named Katya. Impossible for Callie, a mom and a homemaker, to make a difference? Tell that to Katya. When her life hung in the balance, it was Callie who she called. A driver came and took her to safety. A home was provided where Katya learned to heal. An officer arrested her traffickers. A lawyer won their convictions. Today, Katya is free and home, attending a university because just one woman looked past her impossible and she took a step forward. She gave God room to allow his infinite possible to take over. Nothing is too hard for him. Take a step of faith and watch God work through your impossible too. Lord, please give me the courage to step out in your power in the face of the impossible. Help me follow your call. All right. Let me get my prayer book out and a pen. Oh my word, this room is literally the hottest mess on the planet. I need a team of people to just come empty my house, clean it. It's a mess. Take care of stuff. All right, let me read through the chat. All right. Good morning. I would like to ask for prayers this morning. My anxiety is really bad today as my husband is going away for a week on business. I will, Louise. Oh, girl. You got people all around you that love you. I know that. Melissa, yes, we are absolutely still praying for Brad. 100%. And Kim for her son, David. You got it, woman. All right, my friends. You ready for a word of prayer together? Father in heaven, we thank you so much for this day, for the many blessings that you've afforded us. Thank you, Father, for traveling safety as we drove home from North Carolina yesterday. I thank you for safety on busy roads and just protecting us along the way and getting us home. Father, I thank you for Mom and Grace and Donna and I thank you for the struggles that they're going through because it can only draw them closer to you. Father, I pray that all three of them will rely on you as they go through this time. I pray that you will bring healing and comfort to all three of them, all three similar and yet different circumstances. I pray for each and every one of them, Father, that they will focus solely on you during this time. Father, I thank you for Kara, my friend Kara, and thank you that she was able to get to go to South Africa. Father, I don't know any of the details going on there right now, but I do pray for her heart and her dad's heart. I pray that you will bring the gospel, maybe through Kara, to her dad, and that he will be receptive to listen at this time in his life. Father, I thank you for Pam and her family and all that they go through, and I pray for each and every one of them. I pray for baby Silas and all of his health concerns, and thank you for giving him a mom and a dad and a loving family to take care of him and bring him up in a healthy, happy home. And I pray, Father, that you will just continue to provide healing for baby Silas. Father, I thank you for the ladies looking for support on their journey. I pray specifically for Amber, Melanie, Joy, and Davinia, and I'll continue to pray for them, Father, as they've asked to be lifted up to you. I pray that you will bring support to their lives, bring encouragement through other THM mamas to help them along their journey the way many of us here have experienced. Father, I continue to pray for Jennifer and her daughter and her search for a new college. I'm sure it's a very stressful time as summer will be flying by quickly. I pray that you will give her wisdom in choosing a new college. Father, I continue to pray for Christina and her babies, Benedict and Leo, and all the illness that they're going through in their house. And I pray for comfort for each of them. And I pray for continued healing and resolution to their issues so that they can all be on a road to recovery. Father, I pray for, continue to pray for Gabby's sister-in-law and her new journey with disability. Father, I just pray that you will bring people into their life that will be the support they need as they walk through this new road. Father, I need to turn my page. Father, I pray for Louise this week as Rob is going away, that you will just be ever present with her, bring people into her day to keep her from feeling anxious without Rob home, and just surround her with all of her friends who love her so much, including me. And I just pray that you will give Louise maybe even a blessed time of refreshment and some time alone to maybe spend some time with you and with her friends. And just, I pray that you will bless her this week and give her a good week. And I pray for Kim and her son, David. Father, you know the circumstances there. I pray that you will, I just lift him up to you. I lift him up to you. You know the prayer requests on Kim's heart, Father, and I just pray that you will bless both her and her son, David. Father, last but not least, I pray for Melissa and Brad as they and their whole family as they walk this difficult time. Father, you are the great physician. You are also the author of our lives, and none of this is a surprise to you. Father, I just pray that you will bring peace to Brad's heart, peace to Melissa and her whole family, bring strength for them as they walk this journey. And I just pray that you will help all of us to walk this with Melissa and be the support and encouragement and love that she needs during this time. Father, thank you for all that you do for us, your many blessings, and most of all, your love. Please go before us today and help us to keep our eyes and hearts focused solely on you. In your precious name I pray. Amen. All right, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a blessed Father's Day. We have to hit the road again for 4 more hours. Oh, I'm sick of being in the car. But it is what it is. So I gotta go pick up my Bassy boy. I love you all so much. Thanks for joining me. And I will see you back for devotions tomorrow and hopefully breakfast. Love you guys. See you soon.